Thanks for joining us. We don't tend to see it as raw as this.
Good evening and welcome.
Welcome to the Morning Docket here at Law&Crime, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber, and thanks for joining us. We are covering two huge trials today, including closing arguments in the trial for Kenosha shooter Kyle Rittenhouse. In the meantime, we also have the trial involving the death of Ahmaud Arbery that is set to begin any minute now, keeping a careful eye on the courtroom feed. Arbery, as you might recall, was shot and killed by Travis McMichael in February of last year following a struggle while Arbery was out for a reported jog in the McMichael's Brunswick, Georgia neighborhood. McMichael's father, Gregory, told police that he suspected Arbery was behind a string of burglaries in the area and that Arbery, quote, acted like he was armed, which, according to the defendants, led the father and son to follow him that day and attempt to make an alleged citizen's arrest. The third defendant, William Roddy Bryan, joined the McMichaels in their pursuit of Arbery that day, and he recorded the entire incident. All three defendants have pleaded not guilty to charges including malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and criminal attempt to commit a felony. On Friday, the jury heard from Agent Jason Sechrist from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and the bombshell testimony came from a transcript that he read aloud of his interview with defendant William Roddy Bryan. And Bryan told Agent Sechrist that instinct is what compelled him to follow Arbery, not knowing who Arbery was at that point. We expect this testimony to continue this morning, so again, we're going to keep a very careful eye on when that starts up. But right now, it's time to go to Law&Crime Daily's own Brian Buckmire, who is on the ground outside of the Glynn County Courthouse to give us the latest info on the trial. Brian, good morning to you. First, let's start off. What's the scene out there like today?
Good morning, Jesse. So the scene is pretty quiet, but as I found out this weekend, we're expecting to see some more people from religious backgrounds coming into Glynn County, specifically here in court. Today, Reverend Jesse Jackson may be showing up. I know he was in Savannah over the weekend and said that he would be coming to the court. He publicly spoke about the case and some of the comments by Kevin Goff, the attorney for William Bryan. We've also seen a flyer being passed around, many people saying they received them in their church, of a call for all pastors or all religious leaders, no denomination or no distinguish between race or gender, but they're asking to come here on November 18th at 11 a.m. So we'll be sure to capture all that's going on outside of here in the court. When those religious leaders come back, don't forget, this is in response to Kevin Goff's comments last week when he said that the Reverend Al Sharpton was in the court and he, quote, didn't want any more black pastors in the court, believing that there was some sort of pressure, whether it be political or religious, in this case.
Yep, this is definitely a kind of a sucker punch to Kevin Goff if I've seen it. Now, Brian, I do want to ask you, let's talk about the main takeaways from testimony on Friday. I found it to be William Bryan's day, and I don't mean that in a good way. I feel like the testimony from the prosecution was really to show why this was not a case of self-defense or citizen's arrest for William Bryan.
So yeah, it came up with both witnesses, I would say, Officer Rash as well as Officer Sechrist, because we got a viewing of what the officers not only believed, but what they heard from the defendant, specifically William Bryan. First, with Officer Rash saying that if this was a burglary, more steps would have needed to be taken in order for that investigation to get them to what many are calling probable cause or reasonable and probable suspicion that an individual committed a crime. That's the standard that the defense needs to reach in order to enact a citizen's arrest. But with Officer Sechrist, as you said, talking about the reason why William Bryan at least followed Ahmaud Arbery was instincts. Now, anyone who understands probable cause or reasonable suspicion, I know you've got Judge Birmingham there, he'll be able to break it down better than me, but when it comes to the belief or the knowledge that someone committed a crime, instinct by any Supreme Court, whether that be state or federal, is not something that you can act upon for enacting an arrest, whether you're an officer or a citizen enacting citizen's arrest. So it's going to be interesting to see how the defense combats that came up on Friday when cross-examinations continue with Officer Sechrist today.
So there was one other thing that I wanted to get to you with this, and this is when Jason Sheffield, who's actually represents Travis McMichael, he made some comments about Kevin Goff, right, and Kevin Goff's comments. Can you walk us through what he might have said?
So it was interesting. So let's go back. That was the comment in reference to the no more black pastors. But don't forget, at that time, Bob Rubin, the co-counsel with Jason Sheffield, did get up and kind of co-sign some of those arguments, merely saying that he doesn't want an influx of people coming in. But fast forward to Friday, you are correct that Jason Sheffield came out all by himself, with no other defense attorneys. And don't forget, he represents Travis McMichael. And he made a clear point to say that while they do coordinate some of their arguments to streamline the process for the jury and the court, they are not together. And his words were, and he kind of like made sure that he's using the right word because he didn't want to get in trouble, but that Kevin Goff's words and his actions were asinine. They were foolish and out of place, and that he himself, Jason, says that they invite anyone to come into the court so long as they're following the court's rules and not disturbing anyone, which Reverend Al Sharpton did do. He followed all the rules and didn't disturb the court proceedings.
Yeah, we figured there might be some tension between defense counsel, just maybe no one expected it quite like this. Brian, thank you so much. We're going to sign you off because we just found out we can jump live in court. There's some arguments that are happening outside the presence of the jury, but between the attorneys and the judge. Let's go live.
It was the video that shocked the nation. An unarmed black jogger, 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery, gunned down in broad daylight. The three-man charge will now stand trial. For live gavel-to-gavel coverage of the trial, subscribe to Law and Crime on YouTube TV today.
And he dropped his